Hello, YouTubers, and a very special welcome today to Cyberpiper.
Hello River, hello Roblox.
I want to thank Cyberpiper for offering to give this interview. Hello, Cyberpiper. What is your connection with the city of Luxembourg?
What's my connection with Luxembourg? Well, actually, this is where I'm born. I'm born in Luxembourg and I've lived all my life here. And I'm a Luxembourger, not a hamburger, a Luxembourger. It's my home city.
Apart from being your home city, what makes Luxembourg such an important city for a project to develop?
Well, actually, Luxembourg is pretty interesting. Already its architecture, it has 30 kilometers of defense mines underneath the city, which are really mysterious, and a lot of which still exist and are still accessible. And then we have the old fortress buildings, and we have a very interesting topography, like very high rocks and deep valleys, and all that makes it really nice to look at. But also historically it's very interesting and it's very international. We have people living here from all over the world. 1867 was the year of the Luxembourg crisis. Napoleon III, who was Emperor of France at the time, he wanted to buy Luxembourg from the King of Holland, William III, who was also the Grand Duke of Luxembourg, and this caused a big crisis all over Europe, and it almost caused a war between Germany and France.
Can you explain why the year 1867 was such a pivotal point in the history of Luxembourg?
So that makes it a very interesting year. There was a conference called in London, of all places, which was called the London Conference, and and the problem was resolved, and they decided that the fortress would be dismantled or destroyed and that the city would become neutral. So it's the real birth date of Luxembourg City, really. Yeah, and it was also at its highest point. The fortress was really developed at that time, and after that, since it was destroyed, it was never the same again. So the fortress had been built up throughout hundreds of years, and it was actually dismantled in like 20 or 30 years.
How did you become interested in local history?
I became interested in local history. Well, I've always been interested in local history, actually, all my life, especially Celtic history and Roman history. And then, since I started reenacting a character from around 1867, Hauptmann Weidert, for the museum, I had to study his character, and by studying that character, I came upon that date and upon that period of 1867, and thought that was really interesting.
Do you have any other experience of promoting local history in your home city?
Yeah, the museum, they called me up and they asked me to reenact this character, Hauptmann Weidert, who was, he was a captain under the Prussian army, but a Luxembourgish division of it called Hunters Corps of Luxembourg. So he was captain in there, and he was also the one who measured the whole city after 1867 and decided to build a plaster model of the fortress. So we have quite a few things in common. And this is how I got into reenacting somebody from the 18th century. Before that, I've been playing lots of music, and I play music from the 18th, 19th century, and also wearing period costumes. I've been doing that, and also going to steampunk events and all that.
What inspired you to take the concept of 1867 onto the internet?
What inspired me to do the concept of 1867 on the internet? Actually, I had been in Second Life for quite a while, playing music there as cyberpiper, and I had already built a version of Luxembourg City, a small version of it, a part of it, but that was Luxembourg City as it looks today. Now, how did I get into 1867? Well, actually, the educational director of the museum, of the National Museum, he called me up and said, well, since I was doing something already for kids, reenacting Hauptmann Weidert, maybe I could do something for adults, or for young adults, or students. And so I suggested him over my head. He called me really in the morning. I'd just woken up, And I said, well, we could do something like a reconstruction of the Fort Tüngen. This is where we had to do this. A reconstruction of the Fort Tüngen in Second Life, in a virtual reality. And he said, yes, great idea, send me a proposal. So we've sent out the proposal in the afternoon, and with finances and everything. And the next day we already had a positive reply, which was the fastest reply anybody probably ever got from a museum.
I know that 1867 existed in other virtual worlds before coming to Roblox. What were these virtual worlds?
We got the idea to reconstruct the whole city of Luxembourg in a virtual world, and at first we were going to do it in Second Life. But we have already heard about Sansar, that it was going to happen, and that there was going to be another virtual world, more performing, bigger, and more VR related, that you could use Oculus Rift in and everything. So, since it wasn't there yet, we started in Second Life with the plan of going to Sansar later.
Who else was involved in the construction of the Second Life world?
There was quite a few people involved in the construction in Second Life. There was Ramirez Falta, who was a dear friend who built almost half of the Pfaffenthal, loads of houses, and who unfortunately died a few years ago. And there was his Second Life wife, Irkala Falta, who helped a lot as a volunteer. Well, not to forget my own wife, Esther, who helped building loads of houses, and her son James, he also helped. Then we had Renee, who joined us later and built many houses in Fortress Parts, and we had other volunteers helping, and we had Riverblocks, or Maxwell Grantley, helping us with organizing events and doing many things. We had Eugene helping us organizing events. So many people who did many things, and that was really nice because it was supposed to be a community effort.
Why did you decide that it was right to leave the Second Life platform?
Well, the reason we stopped doing this in Second Life was basically the cost. The land we had rented in Second Life cost about 7,000 euros a year, and that's a lot of money. And when the museum stopped paying for this, because the project for them was kind of over after a while, when they stopped paying for this, well, we had no other choice. We couldn't pay it out of our own pocket, so we basically had to stop in Second Life. Then we moved on to Sansar, which Sansar was free and the land was free, so that was nice. And we tried reconstructing the whole thing in Sansar.
What issues did you find within Sansar?
The problem with Sansar was that was the lag already. We tried to make a really graphically good reproduction of the city, and we started with one street. It had to be seen in a VR headset. Using a VR headset, we wanted to make a really quite realistic reproduction. So the graphics were quite high, but already on the first street we had so much lag that people could hardly move around with their Oculus Rift on their head. So that was one of the problems. The other issue was that there wasn't that much traffic, and which might not be a problem for us while developing, but the problem was it's very hard to find financing. It's very hard to find financing or support, financial support for a project when there's no people there.
What was it that tempted you to move to Roblox?
Well, Roblox was a completely different kettle of fish. Roblox works very differently. We had to rethink our building skills. Firstly, Roblox works with much reduced graphics, a lot simplified. They do not use normal maps. You can only import mesh objects that have only one object, one material. You can't have multiple material in objects on import, but you have to assemble them in Roblox. All these things we are still struggling with developing the retro avatars and making our own avatars in scripting and all that. So there was a lot to learn, which we didn't have to do in Second Life or in Sansar, but which we now have to do in Roblox.
Apart from you and Riverblocks, who else has helped in the 1867 project?
Well, we have, apart from myself and Riverblocks, we still have Esther helping on the build in Roblox. We had a few interns working for us. We built many of the houses. Not to mention Marco and Alexandro, who did loads of work. And now we have Itzik working with us, who is a scripter, and he's doing the coding for the UI and all that. So lots of exciting things coming from him.
I've heard a great deal from you about the concept of transmedia. Can you explain to listeners what this term means, please?
Transmedia storytelling is a way of telling the same story through different media, or different platforms, different media, different channels. Which means, like, for example, you tell part of the story making a movie, another part you tell it by developing a computer game, and another part of the story by publishing it in a comic book. That's transmedia storytelling.
How does your project upon the platform of Roblox integrate into your own concept of transmedia?
The great thing about this is that it is really suitable for children. So in our transmedia concept, it fits very well, because that will be the children's part of the project. I mean, the children's game part, it's really secured, it has strong filters. And another reason was that it works on mobile phones and on tablets and all that, which we couldn't say of Second Life and Sansar. So that was really great. One reason to develop it on Roblox.
What are the future plans of the 1867 project in Roblox?
So, what are the future plans for 1867 in Roblox? The future plans for 1867 in Roblox are like to expand the city further, and to create different game levels with different parts of the city. And we'd have the underground casements, for example. They would be an escape game. We'd have the inside of the casements of the caserne. We'd have the inside of the caserne, which would be like a soldiers' training ground, like barracks. And we have the upper city and all kinds of different city. We also will develop the UI further, so that people can choose roles and can choose avatars, can buy clothing, and have dangers and quests to do. Many exciting things coming.
Thank you, cyberpiper. It's all really interesting. The project sounds most exciting. I'd like to conclude by thanking you for your time, and also encouraging gamers and our listeners to visit the 1867 game in Roblox.
Goodbye, and see you all in Roblox in 1867. Like the game, come play the game with us, give us your reactions. Also give us a thumb on YouTube, and subscribe to our channel. Bye bye.
Goodbye to cyberpiper, and to you also on YouTube.